welcome our speaker, CEO of PG&E Corporation, Patti Poppe.
Wow, this is a good sign. This means that exactly why we asked you to gather that you are doing. You are talking and thinking and dreaming so that we can do together. It's so exciting. Hello, I'm Patti Poppe. I'm the CEO of PG&E, and so happy. Yeah, thank you. So happy to have you all here. One person likes me in the room. That's nice. I'm making new friends every day. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, and you know, I wanted to just take a couple minutes to orient. I think Jason and Quinn this morning and the panel were such a great explanation of why you are here and what we need you for. And hello to all the people online. We need you. And we're so glad that you've joined us today, but more importantly, that you're on this journey with us. And I want to share a little bit about where PG&E is and everything that is happening here and how exciting it is. You know, I joined the company about 2.5 years ago, and when I joined the company, we found that we had an organization that had unlimited potential, but was constrained by our thinking. We're constrained by what's been true and what's happened here, both for my coworkers and the customers that we serve. And we've committed to a new and different path forward. And I really want to make sure that all of you understand what it is that is driving PG&E. And it starts with our culture. Everyone told me when I joined the company that we needed a culture change. And I think the biggest culture change that we need here at PG&E is one that is embracing our culture of delivering for hometowns, serving our planet, and leading with love. We say those words because they're intended to spark a conversation. They're intended to surprise you a little bit, like lead with love. What's happening? Aren't we talking about a utility? Trust me, I've had to answer that question a few times in the halls at PG&E, and in the garages, and in the shops, yes, and in the power plants. But what we think is so important about this purpose is that it requires us to rethink our future. And so we've underpinned our culture change with something we call breakthrough thinking. And it's through breakthrough thinking, which is where we allow ourselves to consider what's true today as a file. What's true today is just our current thinking. But imagine a future that's different, that isn't true yet today. But we can stand for that future and work like hell to cause it to be true. And so these stands represent those breakthrough ideas that everyone and everything is always safe, that catastrophic wildfire shall stop. That is a breakthrough thought. And in fact, I gathered my leaders early on to start to imagine this breakthrough way of thinking, that it's okay for us to allow us to learn from our past, but not be anchored by it. Allow us to understand our past so we don't repeat mistakes, but we get to cause a different future. And there's no idea too big or too bold. And all of you who have gathered here, online and in person, I know, live that thought. And we're just letting you know we've caught up with you. We, too, can believe in things that are not true. That we have an engineering culture, and it's robust. But we can believe in things that are not yet true, because all great ideas are born in that way. All the great ideas that live in this room and online and across the globe live because people are willing to say something is possible that today is not true. And so this notion that catastrophic wildfires shall stop has been a very important anchoring point for us. You will notice that that statement does not say catastrophic wildfires shall stop as a result of our equipment. No, because if we truly believe in serving the people of California, it's necessary that catastrophic wildfires shall stop for all reasons. Catastrophic wildfire can and shall stop, and PG&E will be critical to making that happen. We've learned so much, but we also said the subtext of that is we will partner with the best and the brightest to bring that to life. We know that we humbly understand that we cannot do it by ourselves, but we can be a convener and a driver and a catalyst for our stands to come to life. Each of them is equally important, but let me dig into the wildfire one just a little bit because we've had significant breakthroughs as a result of our commitment to that stand. I brought my leaders together to start to teach them this breakthrough thinking. And I'll never forget it. We came out of a 4-day workshop where we agreed that our past is to be learned from, but it is not an anchor, and our future is one to aspire and to cause. We are not victims, but we are drivers of the future. And one of my lawyers, Bill Mannheim, I say lawyer because it's an important point. Might surprise some of you in the room. My lawyer, Bill Mannheim, came to me after that workshop, and he said, Patti, we have to bury the lines. I thought, oh, Bill, that's so hard. And he said, Patti, I am going to make that happen. I thought, you're the lawyer, really? And he said, you have inspired me to realize I've defended our company. I've been out there. I see what our conditions are. We have to change our thinking. We have to bury the lines. So Bill Mannheim and my chief of staff held a summit. We gathered the engineers, the finance folks, the permitting people, the public affairs people, the regulatory people. We gathered them all together, and we asked, what would have to be true to bury the lines? Well, fast forward, by the end of that day, we had taken a mutual commitment. We'd taken a stand that we would bury 10,000 miles of line. And we knew we didn't know how to do it. We knew that there were a lot of unanswered questions, but we knew that that was the right choice for the people that we serve and the people that we love so much, our friends, our families, our neighbors, who use our PG&E energy and live in and around our infrastructure. And so fast forward, we were moving down the road, we were taking our actions, we were starting to build our undergrounding plan. 3 months later, the Dixie Fire started. I have to tell you, that was a real shock to us. That happened on the Dixie Fire started up in the Feather River Canyon on the blue sky day, no red flag warning, no winds, on a circuit that we had inspected many, many times, vegetation that we had inspected. I had LiDAR photos of the trees adjacent to that line. They were green. A tree on a perfectly normal day fell on a line and started the second largest wildfire in the history of California. And we, for a moment had to just reflect, and we wondered, is this stand ridiculous? Is it impossible? Are we helpless? And thankfully, for everyone in this world and in this room, my team was not dissuaded by that. We doubled down on our thought process, and we said, no, what has to be true for catastrophic wildfire to stop? And Samit Singh, who is our chief operating officer, was with Mark Quinlan, who runs our wildfire safety and has grown up as a distribution engineer, and they were putting their heads together and saying, what would have to be true? And Samit asked a very important kind of breakthrough question. He said, look, we have these shutoff valves on the gas system, automatic shutoff valves that when the pressure changes out of standard, they automatically shut. What's our equivalent on the electric system? When something's out of standard, what shuts it off? And Mark said, well, we have these safety settings. What if we engineered them to automatically respond when the conditions are right? Because today, it might surprise you, PG&E has our entire service area, 2/3 of California, divided into 2-kilometer blocks. We have all of the data science and all of the information we have it gathered in a massive data system that can tell us the fuel moisture levels, the wind speeds, the temperatures, the trees, the maintenance log in that 2-kilometer block, and we know precisely what's happening in each of those spots, all we call them polygons, all across our service area. Why not use that data combined with these safety settings, re-engineer them for a different purpose, repurpose those safety settings to actually keep the public safe by when something makes contact with one of those lines and the conditions are such, it de-energizes in less than 1/10 of a second. That is now happening on 45,000 miles of our highest risk miles and all of the adjacent miles. And as a result, last year, we had a 68% reduction in ignitions and a 99% reduction in acres burned. And this year, I'm happy to report 50% further reduction in ignitions year to date. So all that to say, that is breakthrough thinking. And when you take a stand, such as catastrophic wildfire shall stop, that will continue to drive great ideas across the system. Now, I'll say we're not stopping there. XPRIZE just announced that we have the theme for XPRIZE this year, for those of you who are familiar with XPRIZE, it's a $10 million global competition for someone or some team who can both identify an ignition within 60 seconds from space and ignite or put it out within 10 minutes autonomously. That's the contest. And we already have 120 competitors from 29 countries who are participating in XPRIZE Wildfire. Yeah, you can clap about that too. That's pretty exciting. So that's the spirit of what's happening here today. I look at this 10-year True North strategy, and we know specifically there are 70 problem statements where we need your help. And I have to tell you, it's hard for a team like PG&E to ask for help. We think at first glance that's some sort of weakness, but I think it's a source of strength, and it's part of our culture change, that we cannot do things by ourselves. We need the partnerships, and you'll hear more about that in the coming hours, about the partnerships that we are building to change the world together and to bring this True North strategy to life. We're closing that gap. And I think of that gap much like I think of the Golden Gate Bridge. Breakthrough thinking is like a bridge from today to the future. And we're on this breakthrough journey together. And, you know, I've been thinking, in fact, just on Friday, I was on the Golden Gate Bridge and just thinking about the marvel that it is and how beautiful it is and how could we even imagine San Francisco or America without the Golden Gate Bridge? But, you know, it took 15 years to convince people and get that thing permitted. It only took 5 years to build it, but it took 15 years to plan it. And so I did a little research on the chief engineer who just relentlessly pursued, dedicated 20 years of his life, Joseph Strauss, to building the Golden Gate Bridge. And he wrote a poem. So I feel compelled in the spirit of the symphony. This morning we're going to have poetry at PG&E. We're going to have symphonies. Okay, but I'm just going to read 2 verses. It's long. You should look it up because it's pretty amazing. But this is a poem for all the dreamers, all the innovators, all you doers out there who have big dreams that aren't true today, but you're going to cause them to be true in the future. Hear these words from Joseph Strauss. At last the mighty task is done, resplendent in the western sun. The bridge looms mountain high, its titan piers grip ocean floor, its great steel arms link shore with shore, its towers pierce the sky. Next part is for all of you. Here's what he says. Launched midst 1,000 hopes and fears, damned by 1,000 hostile sneers, yet ne'er the course was stayed, but ask of those who met the foe, who stood alone when faith was low, and then ask them the price they paid. We are all standing in the face of resistance. We stand in the face of the sneers of people who don't believe it's true, won't believe it's true, can't imagine a future that we're describing here today. But we are standing with you, and I know that because each of you has a dream that can help us bridge from today to the future, and we're so glad you're here. Stay the course. Stand the test of time. Make your dream come true because you will serve people for generations and generations to come. Thank you for joining us. So excited to be with you all today. So now, I believe we are going online. Okay.
Joining us virtually today, please welcome Elon Musk, Chief Executive Officer, Tesla.
Good morning, Elon. Are you there? Hello, Elon Musk. We see your name, but we can't see you. Are you on the line? We are told he is on the line. Starlinks. Okay, production team, how are we doing up there? Oh, there he is. Wonderful. Okay. Hey, Elon, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. I apologize. I think there's a bit of lag going on because I think it might be as much as a 2-second lag. So just I'm in Italy at a friend's wedding. So
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for making time for us. Hey, Elon, I want to start, first of all, has anyone ever shared with you that you're like the best combination of Henry Ford and Thomas Edison all wrapped up in one? Has that analogy been made before?
I'm not sure that exact analogy has been made. It certainly would be flattering.
Well, that's how I feel today. That's how I feel today, Elon. We're making history here together, and you're joined by hundreds of people here in San Ramon, California, but thousands of people across the globe have joined in for our conversation today. So thank you for that. We're talking a lot today, Elon, about breakthrough thinking and what it means to stand for something that you believe is possible in the face of potentially resistance. Maybe people don't think that it's possible. And I'm curious, Elon, if you can think back, when was the first time you had a thought that something was possible that no one else believed?
Well, I'm not sure that no one else believed, but because it's usually somebody that believes something, however preposterous that might be. But let's say when most people didn't believe it or didn't think it was true, obviously I think electric vehicles would certainly put into that category. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think we can turn it up in the room a little bit louder, please.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Elon. Go ahead.
So yeah, I wouldn't say that nobody, if we're looking at, say, electric vehicles and reusable rockets, I think most people did not think that would happen. A few did, obviously, but most people did not. For me, the technology, it seemed quite obvious from a physics standpoint. If you look at, say, an internal combustion engine car, it needs an electric motor and a battery just to start. So it's an incredibly complicated device, a combustion engine car, and the only reason battery cars did not take off was range. So as soon as you have something with high energy density like the lithium ion, and you have now a range that matches people's needs, then there's really no need for the complexity of an electric car, of a gasoline car. So like a lot of people think that the origins of like interest in electric vehicles would be environmental, but actually my concern was simply that we will run out of hydrocarbons to mine and burn, and so we need something to continue civilization, independent of any environmental issues. So, and we are moving at this point, I think, quite rapidly towards an electric future and towards a sustainable future. So, I'm fairly encouraged on that front. I think it's going to happen. It is happening. We can always make it go faster. That would be good. But I'm not actually in favor of sort of vilifying the oil and gas industry. We still obviously need that in order for civilization to function, but we should be transitioning to sustainable energy as quickly as we reasonably can. But I think, like I said, without vilifying oil and gas.
Well, and I think that really hits on some of the things we're talking about today, Elon, and the work that Tesla and PG&E are doing together. Just a couple props. As I say, I'm leading with love, but I got to show some real love for the Tesla team, Elon. Our partnership on our Elkhorn battery storage, 182 megawatts of power packs, put in a really smart location adjacent to the transmission system that existed from an old steam plant, really has been a perfect complement to the abundant solar that we have and the duck curve that exists. We're working on all sorts of things together in that vein. I'd love to know where you think the grid is going, and where, obviously you've made some really big predictions about the 3 times increase in energy demand as a result of electrification. What do you think the role of the grid is in that future?
Yeah, I mean, to be precise, like if one looks at total energy consumption globally, in very rough terms, only about a third of it is electricity. Um, and then a third of it is burnt for transport with hydrocar, aircraft, boats, cars, and stuff. And then a third of it is for heating. So even if you assume that electricity demand is static, in order to transition to a sustainable energy future where everything is electric and sustainably electric, we need a tripling of electrical output. So you can mark my words here, electrical output will triple. Now, as you alluded to, because of the way that the grid has been constructed to match peak demand, there is actually excess capacity if you run the plants sort of 24 hours a day. I'm not sure, it might be as much as a 2x gain, but it's at least 50 to 100% increase in total energy output if power plants are run 24/7 versus just matching the consumer demand. And obviously the reason for that is there hasn't been really, in most cases, a way to buffer energy. And what stationary battery packs like the Tesla Megapack enable is to buffer the energy. So you can essentially run the power plant at its max power output, and fill up the battery pack and then use it as needed. So this effectively gives far greater output potential for the existing electricity generation infrastructure.
Yeah, and Elon, we are very excited about that. And we actually together got to do a little demonstration last summer. You'll remember we had the peak event in September of 22 here in California. And as a result of the integration with the already, I call it anyways economics, the power walls that people had purchased already in their garages across California, Tesla delivered through our grid 50 megawatts of supply in the peak hours of those peak days. And that's just a start. That was like something we thought together, and thanks to the Tesla's nimble approach and our ability to keep pace, we were able to deliver that last year. And we're continuing to do that now. In fact, last week, my power wall in my garage, you'll be happy to know, Elon, was tapped, and that was good news. We're supplying distributed storage to the grid. What do you think the full extent of distributed storage, and particularly with the idea of bidirectional charging vehicles? Elon, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think there's a buffering that is needed, obviously, at the power plant level, or sort of heavy industry utility level, which is the Megapack. And then there's also energy buffering that is useful at the endpoint, at the consumer's home or individual business. I think we're basically going to need to tackle this problem. Like if I leave with one message, is that the magnitude of the energy problem that lies ahead is absolutely enormous. It's good news for the utility industry. It's great news. People are going to use a lot of electricity, like a lot.
PG&E likes the sound of that, Elon. We like that.
Yeah. So this is for sure going to happen. So in order to satisfy the electricity need of a fully electric transport economy and electric heating, you've got to triple output. And that's just in America. I mean, places that are industrializing like India, I think it probably is a 10x output. So in fact, a friend of mine was talking to me about like some of these sort of fundamental ratios or metrics that are interesting to think about. One of them is total amount of energy per person. And you can include thermal energy and electrical energy, and how that has scaled over time is incredible. So if you said like before the steam engine, you basically just had energy per person would be like, what can you burn with like firewood or a horse or an ox? So this is obviously not much. Now the energy, if you say like total sort of human civilization created energy is gigantic. compared to the past. And that number per person is gonna increase, I think, dramatically over time. This friend of mine that I referred to thinks that we may end up at some point. Well, if the trend continues, that it might end up being like a terawatt per person. Now, I'm not showing it. Like terawatt per person is a lot, obviously.
That'd be a lot.
So you know, big asterisk around if trend continues.
Yeah.
But energy per person over time, it looks like a wall at the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
You know, and the same can be said for compute per person over time, digital versus biological compute. These are really interesting metrics. So basically, you know, what I'm saying is we need to tackle this from all angles. So that's power wall locally, some amount of local solar power. It just helps a little bit so that, you know, one doesn't have to expand as many substations and build, you know, as many transmission lines, which drive people crazy in like suburban neighborhoods, basically.
Yeah. You know, Elon, I think you're talking about something really important, especially for this audience. You know, one of our points of view that we share in our R&D document, we published an R&D document, Elon, that lists 70 key gaps from today to the future. And one of them is talking about the full utilization of our existing assets. And we have a point of view that the decarbonization of our economy at the lowest societal cost requires a much more optimized grid than exists today. And today, we, as you mentioned, you know, we build the whole system for those peak hours plus 15%. And so if we can fully leverage the distributed resources on those peak hours, now the sun stops shining when the sun stops shining, and so we need a resource, and that's where Elkhorn and the mega packs and the residential power packs can play a role, as well as EVs can help to bring down that peak, and not just as we add 3 times more energy usage, not just add to the peak, but in fact, if we can add to the peak less and fill the belly of the duck, as we say, more, then we can get a more fully utilized energy grid, which could in fact be more affordable for customers. They actually could spend less on energy. What is your point of view about that?
Well,
you can disagree if you want, Elon.
yeah, no, I think there will be price pressure on electricity because just when you increase demand, there tends to be pricing pressure on something, on wherever it may be. But you know, the good news is with batteries at scale, either like the mega pack, which is sort of, you know, where you do sort of gigawatt hour class, you know, battery packs, or the summation of power walls at users' homes where the power walls all communicate, and you can have 10,000 power walls all operating together to buffer the power. This is going to be extremely helpful in increasing total electricity availability, because you just have to buffer it, especially with renewables. Obviously, with wind and solar, the buffering is essential. I mean, if you look at, say, like SpaceX and Starlink satellite constellation, which is a majority of all satellites currently in operation, they're all solar battery powered, and they're in low Earth orbit, so they go through Earth's shadow. You can think of Earth as just really a big satellite. My prediction is that long-term most electricity will be generated with solar and with a solar battery combination. The solar energy is just absurdly gigantic, with a, you know, a gigawatt of solar incidence per square kilometer, roughly. Or thought of another way, when you do all the math, it sort of roughly works out to like a gigawatt hour per day, if I recall correctly, per square kilometer. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yes, we should react. Yes. That's a lot.
I mean, it would be a frozen ice ball at roughly 3 degrees Kelvin if it wasn't for the sun. It would be pitch dark and cold as hell.
Fortunately,
So
it's not. Yes, right.
fortunately, we have the sun,
Right.
which is throwing off absurd amounts of energy, and it's zero maintenance, and it just shows up every day. It's amazing.
Yeah.
People
Yes.
always ask about, like, what do you think about fusion? I'm like, we have a fusion reactor in the sky that just
Yeah.
shows up every day.
Yeah.
Why do you need to build one on the ground? That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. So
Like,
with that
fusion is
thought,
definitely solvable, but it's pointless.
so Elon, with that thought, and as you imagine the energy system of the future, what role do you think? I'm going to bring it back to just kind of practical terms here, so I'm sorry for that. But what do you think the role of the grid and a utility like PG&E is in causing that lowest cost societal transition to a decarbonized economy? What do you think our role is, and what advice do you have for us?
Well, I think generally leaning in the direction of solar and wind combined with battery storage, because of the intimate nature of solar and wind, is generally the right approach. And I think a lot of that is happening. I mean, we see the growth of renewables in the United States and actually in most places in the world, including China, is very high. So if that trend continues, and probably will, then I think we're headed for a good place. I would just say, whatever your demand predictions are for electricity, I suspect they are too low.
Yeah.
So I recommend
I'm taking a note,
anticipating
Elon.
much higher demand.
Yeah. So, Elon, I know you kind of have a love-hate relationship with artificial intelligence. On one hand, you love it. On one hand,
Well, I have
it's
concerns.
scary. What role do you think AI has in this grid of the future and the energy system of the future?
Yeah, I'd say just I'm worried about AI as it just, if you've got some sort of digital super intelligence, things can go wrong potentially. It's just something we should not be cavalier about. We should be careful with digital super intelligence. Digital super intelligence may be the biggest existential risk that humanity has ever faced. So I think we need to be very careful with it, and I think we should have regulatory oversight, because it is a potential danger to the public, and whenever we have something that is a potential danger to the public, we have regulatory oversight. So, on the plus side, I mean, AI has the potential for creating a society of abundance. So in the positive AI scenario, there will be no shortages of goods and services. There will be almost free. Yeah, it's a strange way to think about it, but I recommend reading Ian Banks' The Culture books. That's probably the best future envisioning of AI that I've seen.
Oh, good.
But yeah, digital superintelligence combined with robotics will essentially make goods and services close to free in the long term.
Yeah,
Not immediately.
and I think they should be invisible for sure, and easy and automated. And so actually, we've got Schneider Electric and Microsoft here in the room. They're going to be talking about our partnership on our distributed energy resource management system and how important that is to make those the optimized. I think of that as the optimized grid, that those services happen very invisibly, that outages are a thing of the past because our resources are more dynamic than that, and they're optimized in some way to provide service where required. And we're very excited about that. Elon, I've got a whole host of people here. I'd love to take a question from the audience, and then I'm going to do a speed round with you. You okay for a couple more minutes?
That's good. Sure.
Okay. All right. Let's take a question from the audience. I think I have one here in the front row, please. I've got Scott Harden here from Schneider Electric, and he has a question for you, Elon.
Thank you, Patty. Elon, Scott Harden, CTO at Schneider Electric. One of the things that I'm delighted to hear in your conversation with Patty is the partnership that you have established here. And I think that that's unique in the industry. And we have a very similar partnership with PG&E, and we think it's incredibly important because as we drive forward with energy transition, it's going to be partnerships like this that are going to truly move the needle. What I'm curious about is, from your perspective, more broadly, what is working with other utilities, what is not working, and what could we do collectively to essentially facilitate greater collaboration like we see here?
Well, I think just generally recalibrating expectations for electricity demand is very important. You know, if you have a fairly static electricity demand, which has been the case in the U.S. for a while, it hasn't changed a lot. Then having projects take a long time is okay in that scenario. But in a rapidly changing scenario where electricity demand is increasing, we have to move much faster. So we need to bring the timescale of projects in sooner and have a high sense of urgency. So that's it. My biggest concern is that there's insufficient urgency, and people just don't understand how much electricity demand there will be, and it's really going, like I said, it's going to be 3 times what it currently is.
Elon,
It has to be.
that is great advice. I mean, I think we are definitely taking a note here. I'm going to be the last person to doubt your predictions of the future. So, but I really think that is very important takeaway for us at pace of change, and why we've written this 10-year strategy. It's not a 50-year strategy, it's a 10-year strategy. And that means we have to have a grid that is ready for the demand that electrification will bring. And having a regulatory construct that enables that, and a engineering team who goes from a mindset of operate and maintain to a mindset of growth. And in an industry that has had limited growth over the lifetimes of the engineers who have worked for our companies, that's a big change. That's a big change.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, Elon, I'm going to fish for a compliment here. Anything PG&E is doing good? Anything we're doing well with you, Elon?
Well, I think we've had a number of really productive projects. You know, the big battery installations have been great. And just generally the dialogue has been really good between our teams. And I appreciate the help with the Powerwall, with the backup switch, which is really helpful for, you know, if customers do get caught in a wildfire or for some reason electricity is down, then we need to cut off the home power from the grid, so it's contained, so that the Powerwall can power the house. So it's actually important from a safety standpoint and everything, and I appreciate your help in enabling that. That's a big deal for people in need.
Yeah, thank you, Elon. Thank you for finding something good to say. I appreciate that. You had to dig deep. Okay, okay, Elon. We're going to do a speed round now. We're going to do a speed round. Something overrated.
What's overrated? I mean, some of these things that are overrated are obvious at this point, like, you know, Web 3.0 or whatever, and NFTs, but everybody knows that at this point.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Me, I'm overrated.
Nice, nice. Okay, so tell us something that you're excited about for the future. What's something that excites you for the future, Elon?
Well, I think it'd be very exciting to see humanity back on the moon, and to have the first people on Mars. And, you know, for us to be a spacefaring civilization, I think that would be a very exciting future. You know, I think we are moving towards sustainability, and I think that'll make everyone a lot more comfortable as we move to a sustainable energy future. You know, on the positive side of AI, I think there will be some amazing things that AI creates for us.
Those are all very exciting things, Elon. And you know, when I think about, there was well, I often think that if Thomas Edison came and took a walk with me today, he'd recognize most of the stuff, but not for long. And in no short order because of you, Elon. and your vision and your commitment to a future that was not true when you stated it the first time. You had a lot of doubters. We talked a little bit before you joined about the Golden Gate Bridge and how there were a lot of doubters about the Golden Gate Bridge, and now we can't imagine a world without it. I can't imagine a world without Tesla, and I'm so thankful for your leadership. We're thankful for your partnership. We at PG&E are dedicated to being with you, and we're going to do our darndest to keep pace with you, and we're always going to listen closely when you give us good advice. So thank you so much for being with us. Please, everybody, give it up for Elon Musk.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you to say.
Don't hang up. I got to take a selfie with Elon. Here, but I need my phone real quick. Thank you. I'm famous for my selfies, Elon. If you'll humor me, I'm just going to take one real quick.
Sure.
And then I'll take one with all of you, too, because I like you, too, you know.
All right.
Oh, wait. What? Oh, wait. I'm almost ready. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you, Elon. Very good. I'm going to take one with all of you.
Nice to speak to you. Thank you.
All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. That was fun.